Ros Pomeray has worked in the UK, mainland Europe and Asia Pacific in a variety of areas, including sales, business strategy, and most recently, human resources and change management. She specialises in executive coaching and change leadership in both the public and private sectors. Ros, what communication problems does this case highlight?
I think the examples of the communication problems given in this case are totally consistent with what any company would experience as it makes the transition or the change from a small start-up, perhaps family business, into something that's a much more complex and growing and professionalised business. The people who start with a company like that value the informality, they value the face-to-face communications, and the size of the business allows that to happen. But as the company grows, then they begin to resist the introduction of a more systematic approach, and they see that as some unnecessary bureaucracy. In this case of W.C. Hooper, the mistakes now that are being made are detrimental to the business and jeopardise its future growth and future success. So what's missing, I think, is an understanding, a commonly understood view of what are the key business processes that matter. So, for example, in this case, something like customer complaints tracking, sales forecasting, inventory management. So, as an example, customer complaints as a process, if there was a more standardised approach to the way in which those complaints were handled, I think that would give W.C. Hooper really valuable data about how customers were reacting to their products and would help them to manage their reputation as they go forward.
What do you think of the consultant's recommendations?
My feeling is that the recommendation to appoint a key accounts manager is a good one. However, the remaining recommendations seem to focus too heavily on the use of blackberries, so focusing on the means of communication rather than really getting to the heart of what it is, what information needs defining in some way so that it is relevant to the business. So, in other words, if it was more clearly understood what were the key drivers, the key performance indicators or KPIs that were relevant to the business, then there would be greater clarity about what it was that needed to be communicated and when. I think there's something else really missing from W.C. Hooper, and that is some kind of consistent and automated management information system. It would be possible, for example, for sales representatives to input their sales data into a system which could then be analysed or interrogated to produce a report which showed upcoming sales forecasts and sales trends, for example. Or in the case of customer complaints, if all customer complaints were inputted into a database, then again it would be possible to track trends, exceptions, difficulties, problems such as the one that was highlighted in this particular case.
Would you give any other advice to W.C. Hooper?
Yes, I think the best solutions for W.C. Hooper are going to be those that people are committed to do and will actually implement. And in this case, clearly, the chief executive does not buy into the recommendations that the consultant has made. And in this case, therefore, they are not going to work, even if they are well constructed. So what I would recommend for W.C. Hooper now is for them to do some analysis about what their business risk is if they don't change their working practices. And I think that might concentrate some minds. It might highlight the risk, which I think is probably quite great to their future growth, unless they make some changes. And with that understanding that change is required, what Hooper and his colleagues could very usefully do is to compare themselves or benchmark themselves with other organisations, similar sectors or other sectors, perhaps companies that are slightly further ahead on the growth path, slightly larger in scale, and compare how they operate with the operational procedures that Hooper currently has, and see if they can learn some lessons from that.